Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Coffee with the Critters. Joined this morning by Quincy, our Rottweiler, Levi, our deaf dog, who's laying down beside me, Captain Caveman, Captain America, Twinkle Toes, Rico Von Squiggleton, whatever, Mini-Me, whatever you want to call him, Rico. Good morning, everybody. Hey. Welcome back to another episode of Coffee with the Critters. So right off the bat, in case people come on here that aren't familiar or watching this replay, my name is Laura Joseph, owner of the Animal Behavior Center. We're an international educational center where we teach people how to empower themselves and the lives of their animals through our live streaming services, focusing on positive reinforcement and applied behavior analysis. I've been saving that every Sunday morning for over 4 years now. So, hey, welcome everybody. I saw that. Are you guys liking the notifications and the reminders on Sunday morning about Coffee with the Critters? Good morning, everybody. We've got a lot of people coming in this morning. Hey, Sylvia, you're on my radar. I'm going to shoot you an email as soon as we're done with Coffee with the Critters. So I see some people on here. They're in our memberships and our projects. Yay. Oh, I forgot to add my graphic. There we go. Welcome to Coffee with Critters. Coco. So Helen says I do. Like I sit here and get these notifications bloop, 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 on Sunday mornings, and I can see who's responding. And I was like, okay, great. That person's coming. That person's coming. And the other one will say, no, I'll have to catch it on the replay. Jackie got yours. Good, good. Yeah, well, let's keep doing them then. So I want to get started. I have a very important announcement to make this morning that only subscribers of one of our projects knows about. But before we move on, you can, if you're interested in our live streaming online learning, you can find out more about us at our website, theanimalbehaviorcenter.com. You can always reach me. You can always reach me personally. My email address, laura@theanimalbehaviorcenter.com. And that's LARA. So let's go ahead and get started and get that off my screen. Good morning. There's our manager, Karen Pratt, just joined. Lena says she's liking the reminders. Good, 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 good. Yeah, and also I can put up the closed caption. I have to do that afterwards for people who want to watch Coffee and the Critters with no sound, and they just read it. So we have the capability of doing that too. So I have a couple announcements to make before we get started with today's topic, which is common mistakes made with animals, because I have my list here. And I didn't even get through half of them in the first episode of this a couple of weeks ago. So I decided to have part 2. But before we get started, I wanted to let you know we have our Coffee with the Critters in all of our, well, we're sharing our events. Be sure to check out our Facebook page right here. Click on events. You can see which topics. Deb Jones is supposed to come to town again June 23rd, and I need to change that because I have a trip that I just planned last week. I've been talking on the phone with some people out west. So we're going to move that weekend, June 23rd, I'll be live streaming from Utah. And we'll bring Deb on a different weekend. You can also sign up to join our email newsletter. I just sent out a newsletter last night. Okay, so I try to keep important information going out on our newsletter. So to recap last week, if you did not watch last weekend's episode of Coffee with the Critters about Sam, you can do so. It's available here for the replay. But I wanted to let a couple people know. Serious shout outs and thank yous. We brought in almost $1,000 this past week. So thank you. And that's for the Sam I Can Foundation. You can find our website, that website's not mine, because it doesn't belong to me. It belongs to all of us. You can find that website, samicanfoundation.org, and you can find, that's our web page, and the donate button's there, and we're going to be expanding upon that. We're going to show our new logo here soon. I know Tim Sparks is on here. But pay attention to the Facebook page, the Sam I Can Foundation Facebook page, because we're going to be pretty active with that, okay? And Sam I Can is not just for birds. It's a foundation where we raise money for animals in certain cases with people and their animals in desperate need, and getting them transportation, veterinary care, what have you. Like I said, we'll be very active on that. Okay, so coming up this week in the Parrot Project, which is my online live streaming service focused just on parrots, we have Dr. Donald Brightsmith coming on. He's going to be talking about, you guys wanted to know more about understanding nutrition, so he's going to be coming on talking about geophagy, dirt eating, eating of the natural substances and how it benefits animals, particularly on parrots, through his field work at the Tambopato Macaw Project. So that's this Wednesday in the Parrot Project. If you're not in there and you're really interested in the well-being of parrots, you should be. Okay, in level 1 or level 1 membership, which is online learning about behavior with animals, period, we're talking about target training and what you can get from a target. This is a picture of me. Target training helps get control over animals, especially in an uncontrolled environment. This is me target training cello to my shoulder. A target means I want a particular body part to touch an object, and I was wanting to use him in one of our October events. I wanted him to be a part of it, but I was like, how am I going to keep control over cello in the 10,000 square foot center with all these people in here? So I started target training him to my shoulder about 3 weeks before the presentation. These are some of the things we're talking about in level 1. Teaching an animal to touch their nose to a stick. You can teach a lot of things with a target. Targeting Quincy's nose to my hand to prepare for a blood draw. And I just did a live stream in there showing how we can teach dogs to walk loose on a leash through a target. And when I am teaching a dog to walk loosely on a leash, that leash and that harness haven't even come out yet. Here's some chickens I trained. I love training chickens, and we were thought about bringing chickens in here, but didn't know how we were going to do that with a border collie, a blind and deaf border collie, and a bunch of chickens. Snow. And with that being said, did you guys see, I posted this on the Animal Behavior Center's Facebook page a little while ago. If you look up, if you Google target training, that's my photo that I just posted right there. And they're using the Animal Behavior Center's definition of what target training animals means. If you Google target training with animals, it shows up. And also, we found out, good morning, Denise. Also, we found out through Dr. Patricia Anderson, are you on here, Pat? Said, do you know if you Google contra freeloading, there is a picture of your center, Milo, the pig, and the definition of contra freeloading. I have a huge presentation on contra freeloading. I started presenting on contra freeloading, I believe it was back in 2009 at AAV, the Association for Avian Veterinarians, because I thought it was something extremely important. And maybe we have one on, maybe have a coffee with the critters on contra freeloading. Contra freeloading is when an animal passes up free food or food that can be acquired at less effort for food that it is harder to obtain, but it has to be the exact same freshness, size, amount, blah, blah, blah. And animals choose to pass up free food to work for it instead. And there's like 7 different theories on it. I have some cool videos of animals choosing to work for their food. And I have videos of animals choosing to work for their food via training versus passing it up at less effort and the exact same thing in a dish right beside it. So mentally and physically stimulating. I'm just seeing that Pat's bird is in ICU. I am so sorry. I'm going to have to see what is going on. Hope it's going to be okay, Pat. Quentin says it's in the foraging webinar in the Parrot Project. Yeah, contra freeloading is in that webinar, but I don't go deep to dive into it. Every single one of my animals, not mine, the animals here will contra freeload for their food, and including the pig. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's pretty cool to experience. And I love seeing animals pass up free food in the dish for the opportunity to work for it via training. So why is that? Yeah. There's some statistics out there. So I have an announcement to make that I haven't made to the public yet. Lisa. All right. So yeah, with Sam's passing, there's been a lot of things on my mind. One that I felt like I needed to reach out to another animal in need. And I've been thinking about what animal would that be. So I thought about reaching out for Molly, the lemur, again. But I found out Molly has a boyfriend. So I'm thinking Molly would probably do better with her boyfriend because, as we know, social enrichment is some of the most complex form of enrichment out there. So I'm sitting here thinking, I was just like, I almost wanted to train another blind bird. I felt this deep need to train another blind Amazon, and I have a soft spot for Amazons as well. Bet you didn't know that. But I'm like, I needed to find an animal that really needs help and that can really help others. So I have a couple animals in mind, and I'm getting ready to reach out to an organization this coming week for what might be next after what I'm going to present to you. So an animal that I have known that has needed attention was a year ago last April when I went out to Best Friends. Do you remember? Oh, I can't show the whole thing. I said, let's do this. It says, let's do this, Sunshine. When I went out to, I wish, Carol, elephant. When I went out to Best Friends last year, I met Sunshine, the cockatoo, and I asked what his story was. And then I went back a couple months later. They brought me back out and hired me to give a workshop and train their staff. And I'm like, what's Sunshine's deal? And they said, he's unadoptable, and he's been there. Now it's been 10 years because that was a year ago. He's been at Best Friends for 10 years. He attacks skin if he sees it. So I sat down with the former director of the Parrot Garden out there. That was an alarm call. And we did some work for the 3 days that we were there. We did some work with Sunshine. We taught him a target. I slowly started putting my fingers in the cage, and they kept the training up while I was gone. I went back in August. They had made progress teaching a target and teaching a station. Since Sam died, I was just like, I wonder how Sunshine's doing. So I got in touch with Best Friends, and I am here to tell you that I'm not adopting him. Give me some wood. I'm not adopting him, but I had talked to them last August. What do you think the chances are of Sunshine or another bird coming here to the center temporarily for training, bring him back out to Best Friends? So it's happening. I'm going out. I'm flying to Vegas on June 22nd, and then June 23rd, I'm driving up into Utah. They asked me to come out and train the staff again, so I'll be spending some time out there working before I pick up Sunshine that Tuesday and head across the country via car to bring Sunshine home. Well, bring Sunshine, I didn't say that. Very funny. Bring Sunshine back to the center for training. And he is up for adoption, and the adoption process will go through Best Friends. So there you go. So Sunshine has been heavily on my mind. So for the past week, I've been singing in my head. Instead of going to California with an aching in my heart, I'm going to Utah with an aching in my heart. But it should be fun and interesting driving home. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started on our topic. Yeah, so you're going to be seeing Sunshine here. We're getting that back cage ready, and we're going to get some cages moved around in here. We got to introduce a new animal. Sunshine will be staying here temporarily because we have some other animals, non-bird related, in line behind Sunshine. Yeah, so when we know better, we do better. Okay, so I can't remember, it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had a Coffee with the Critters on common mistakes we make with animals, or common mistakes made with animals. And afterwards I had so many messages saying that was great content, and I didn't even get halfway through. So this morning before Coffee with the Critters, I sat down and listened to that episode again. You can find it here on the Facebook page or on our YouTube channel, and just to make sure I didn't duplicate. So one of the things we ended with, let me reinforce Captain America here. Reinforce behavior. You don't reinforce the animal, you reinforce behavior. I sit there and hold it for them. So yeah, one of the another thing I commonly hear in the world of behavior. Hey Jude, I was thinking about getting in touch with you, maybe see if I can come see you eat for lunch, passing through St. George next month. One thing I commonly hear, and I find myself correcting once in a while, is we reinforce behavior. We don't reinforce an animal. Behavior is punished. Animals are not punished, okay? Yeah. Hi. Hang on. All right, but that wasn't on my list of common mistakes. Also, in applied behavior analysis, positive reinforcement is abbreviated capital R with the plus sign afterwards. We talk about that in my memberships because I'm a stickler about that. But face looking for reinforcement as well. Okay, so some of the ones we ended with was a couple weeks ago was not reinforcing desired behavior. A lot of times desired behavior doesn't bring about our attention, so we forget to reinforce it. If we don't reinforce desired behavior, the animal is going to look for other behaviors to earn reinforcement that may not be desired to us. So I've stood up and reinforced the behavior of Rico saying hi how many times? 2 or 3? Okay. Here's another common mistake. This is a very common mistake in training. This last time I went up and delivered a reinforcer, I was training a completely different behavior. I'm going to do it again. Do you know what it is? Be specific, Bob. Right, Eva? So the past 2 times I was reinforcing a brand new behavior. You got it, Carol. Carol nailed it. Yep, Quentin's got it too. And this is what I'm really a stickler for in the memberships and the projects. Because if we don't get specific, we can confuse the animal, we can confuse ourselves and our learning, and we can reinforce undesired behavior. So the first 1 or 2 times I went up and reinforced the behavior of Rico saying hi, I did it without my glasses. So as I'm aging, and believe it or not, I'm embracing myself getting older. I love life. As I'm getting older, I'm having to wear glasses a lot more. I've had these glasses for like 10 years. Which brings us into one of our mistakes, most common mistakes here. The last three times, I walked up with my glasses on. And if you've watched past episodes of Coffee with the Critters, you know I'm slowly trying to desensitize my glasses, which is one of my top things on my list today. Keep your animal used to change. That is one of the biggest, you'll hear me say that all the time. And it's one of the most common that people don't do in organizations and in home. Some of the times they can't. They don't have that time because that's not what they do. I get it. I totally understand it. But when animals stay in stagnant environments, non-changing environments, when the environment changes, it can induce stress because the animal, the behavior was not shaped for acceptance of change. Some things that can be very common is like, say, a big, 20-gallon bucket. Somebody comes in, sets it down, turns around and walks away. That could cause a dog to continue to bark. It could cause birds to start screaming, trying to fly away. They can't. And what we do here is keep them used to change. And those changes can be so subtle. It doesn't have to be huge, all right? Some of the things we do here, new foods, new sounds, and even with the dogs and the pigs, changing perches. A lot of times you'll see us do this. We can change the environment where the dogs are we've got behind the center, we have behind the house. And I have created these areas trying to get, to think of more ways to shape change. We have the center, we have the training room, we have this room. I know you guys a lot of you don't have 10,000 square feet to work with, but you don't need, it's not the space. It's not the size of the space. It's what it contains. Okay. We can change these things. Another way you can incorporate change, even with the dogs, is Snow is inside. Levi and Quincy are out here with me. I could even separate these two. Levi goes into the training room during the hour of the Coffee with the Critters. I'm coming. With the parrots, I'm getting ready to build another aviary. I'm thinking about doing that today. Or binge watch Bloodlines, which I think might win. With the birds, it doesn't have to be that hard, right, Rock? So Rocky went on the commercial. That is a lot of change for a bird in a stagnant environment. You saw I did a lot of my training. I hit the ground running with the training, getting him used to change. We had the Christmas open house, and that was I wanted to see how he would do with a large group of people. So I used everybody in that open house, and they didn't even know it. But I gave them in exchange, they got to see the center, which is a rare occasion. So I got him to see any behavior issues that I need to work on within the next 3 weeks before the commercial was shot. So Rocky's never been in a commercial, at least not in the 12 years that I've had him. 12 plus years, right? Handsome sauce. So I got a bigger crate. We started going on outings. But anyways, all of that, just next day, go shoot a commercial. Oh no. There could be a massive scream fest with that one. So we had huge like stage lights moving, filters, all that stuff. I had to work with that once I got on in production. Okay. Please do that again. What was that, Melissa? Please do what again? What about pigs, though? They love routine. Okay, great. Lauren, I'm glad you're here because I'm going to talk about the pigs, too. And I'm going to talk about routines, too. Lauren, remind me, bring that back up. Kim says, for horses, get them used to a cowboy hat or baseball cap that some veterinarians wear. So keep them used to change, because when it comes time, must be hanging in the other room, for a stethoscope to come out, that could be a scary thing. I try to put a stethoscope on Quincy, and she's not used to it, and a big, tall man, veterinarian, hanging over top of her. That can be some scary things. Okay. Changing route. Okay, Sylvia says changing routines is good for all animals, teaching them about change, flexibility. Yes. Okay, hang on, because routine is one of the things. It's the next thing I have written down here. Yep, we keep our animals used to change because you know what? Life changes. And one of the examples I give is when my stepfather passed away. I was very close with my stepfather. He passed away. Guess who wasn't here? Me. I was gone a lot. I keep the animals out here by themselves. I keep them with other people. I keep them sometimes with me. They have to stay used to being by themselves for long periods of time. I used to shape that back when I lived in my other house, and I would be gone for 1 to 2 weeks at a time. Keep them used to change, because if things don't change, I mean, we have schedules here. Volunteers come in at 10 in the morning. Sometimes I come out here at 7 in the morning in my robe. Keep them used to change, such as earrings, necklaces. Sometimes I walk out with necklaces, and this is with different animals. Sometimes I walk out here with flip-flops. Sometimes I walk out with big mud boots, because when things happen like this that need to be a major change, this can be scary for a prey animal, okay? Keep them used to change. A lot of times with the birds, we just switch cages for a day. Everybody moves one cage to the left. Because each cage offers a whole new view, new perches, new places to move. We'll separate the animals. Sometimes a dog and a pig are in 2 separate crates in the back. Do they need to be in that crate at that particular time? Maybe not necessarily, but what I'm doing is reinforcing calm behavior, staying in the crate while they're watching other dogs, pigs, animals run around having fun and receiving positive reinforcement training. You hear me say that if you're actually using positive reinforcement, studies show that it's the animal's preferred form of enrichment. So having an animal watch another animal be trained can bring stress and frustration. Okay? We intentionally do not keep routines here because I could swear I have an article out there on it somewhere. Lauren, are you still in here? Are you the one that was asking me about the pig? We intentionally do not keep routines here because when those routines are broken, it can cause stress. And we highly advise people to start shaping change in that routine. And that's extremely important for Milo, the pig, because if I give him a stagnant environment where nothing changes and everything's on a routine, he's fed at a certain time every day. You are a good boy. Yes, you are. I'm trying to identify something here. If Milo's routine is broken, and this isn't just for Milo the pig, this is for all of our animals. When that routine is broken, I can see a lot of frustration and behaviors labeled as aggressive start to happen. We intentionally, Milo does not get fed at a certain time every day, especially the pig. Because a lot of times I see pigs train people a lot, okay? And I've seen pigs train people into feeding them. So if I have a pig that's going to charge or lunge or bite, one of the things I start to train is a target, and then I'll train to station, and we have stations in every room. Stations help prevent accidents. Where was I going with that? Pig's charging. The dog sitting his wet mouth on my knee, so I can tell that behavior's been reinforced. Maybe I just did it by looking at him. Yeah, so Lisa says dogs train people too. Yes, absolutely. And so if mine are 5 and 4 and 4.5 months, can I start changing their feed time? Yes, and this is what I do, Lauren. If I don't change Milo's route, keep his daily environment changing, even his feed time, what I start to see is pigs are notorious for this because they're pigs. They start bullying people into feeding them. I'll see them starting to nibble on toes. I'll see them start to head swipe. And the worst thing you can do at that point is drop food, because then you're teaching, oh, it's the head swipe that gets me food. And if you ignore that head swipe next time, what they're likely to do is increase that with a lunge, charge, a bite to see if that works. And if food is given, then you've just reinforced that behavior. A pig consult that I went on with a huge pig, charging pig. The woman was showing me that all of a sudden the pig started to charge her, and to redirect the behavior, she threw the food. I was like, you're teaching the pig to charge you to get the food. So here we intentionally, especially with the pig, and especially with Nature's Nursery's turkey vulture, if the first thing I do every morning when I walk in the door, I don't care if it's the pig, turkey vulture, parrot, dog, the first thing I do walk in the door is feed. I got to hurry up and feed everybody because they're expecting their food right at this time. I'm going to see behavior issues start to skyrocket. So what I like to do, and Lauren, this is what I highly suggest, to get off of a routine. I need to pay attention to everybody's comments. Very funny, Quentin. To change a routine, it's usually a lot of the animals that are on routines that have behavior issues, such as parrots screaming. okay? Pigs, charging. Animals at zoos, lunging, swiping. If the first thing you do, that's called a conditioned reinforcer, okay? When a once neutral stimulus is paired with another, with something of positive consequence, well, not necessarily positive consequence, sorry, take that out. When a neutral stimulus is paired with another, okay? Hi. So when I'm shaping to get out of a routine, Rico's foraging in one of his toys that I intentionally put up there. What I do is, if your animal is used to being fed at 10 every morning, what I do is suggest feed it at 9:55 tomorrow. The next day, 10:05. The next day, 9:50. The next day, 10:10. The next day, 9:45. The next day, 10:20. And try to get off the routine. Routines, we say some things. Studies show that with predictability comes boredom. But there is an article I have out there written, predictability does have its place. Will I put or keep an animal on a routine? Yes, certain instances when it's very stressful for that animal to come off of that routine. I will keep it on that routine. I will keep my approach very predictable to that animal, and then I'm slowly going to start shaping in change. I'm going to slowly start taking off of that routine, unless there's some serious health problem. But I'm talking basic general behavior. I can sit in there. Okay. Adrian, you did make it. Okay. Nancy says, we have a lot of change in the past 2 years with the hurricane. Irma, Nancy's down in Key West, and Steve not being able to work. New places, new people. Our parrots are resilient because, and I volunteer taking them off property, and parrots look forward to going out and being created for an auto ride and meeting new people. Exactly, Nancy, and I saw that with your birds when I was down there, and I can't wait to see it again. Your parrots are, and how many do you have, Nancy? Is it 23? I can't remember. Your parrots are very well adapted and used to change. Molly, Mr. Peaches, and several of your macaws that you take out. I know a lot of people are saying things. Adrian says, I go through that with my neighbor and husband all the time with the Aussie boy. They like to jump and bark. Neighbor stands there and points finger at dogs. Attention, reinforcer. Husband talks to them, more attention. So now they jump, bark, and end up overexcited at people. Interestingly enough, they don't do it to me. That's funny. I mean, that's not funny. But I see that here as well, Adrian. And a lot of it, and one of the things I'm not going to talk about in this episode is misuse of a reinforcer and identification of reinforcers, because we talked about that in episode 1. Lisa says, perfect example of why changing environment and routines are important. Change is stressful, so providing change helps animals learn adaptation behaviors. Works for people too. Yeah, and the thing with that, is if an animal is not used to change, here's how I put a behavior modification plan in place to get them used to change. Always reinforce calm. Reinforce calm behavior while a change is introduced. So if you're working with an severely stressful dog, bird, I don't care what it is, monkey that's not used to change, that animal's in that back enclosure, it may be something like this that sits on a table out here. But it's going to be new things all the time. Did you see? I was trying to identify some change in Rico like 5-10 minutes ago. He stopped taking the reinforcer. Why? Was it, did I approach a different way? So the next time I approached, I went with my glasses on. He didn't take it there either. So I'm trying to identify the change in the environment. What's changing? Could the value of the reinforcer change? Okay, so Adrian says it's often much harder to change human behavior than the critter's behavior. I agree with you, and we'll put money down on that. Yeah. So right before, and behavior doesn't lie. I was starving right before Coffee with Critters. So I jumped in the fridge and found some apple wheat berry salad. All right. Look at this. I don't feed my dogs off my plate. She just had her head laying down right before she heard this cue. This cue was learned, okay? Behavior, consequence. This is telling me behavior doesn't lie. Somebody has been feeding the dogs from, the only reason Levi isn't looking because he can't hear. And he has back turned to me. So somebody has been feeding the dogs when they're eating dinner. Behavior doesn't lie. So when I was sitting here eating, I had 2 dogs sitting here staring at me. And I was like, okie dokie, how do I put that behavior modification plan in place with my husband? Okay? This behavior is learned. All right. Hey, Daphne, good to see you. Yeah, and I know Deb Jones is at the Fenzi Dog Sports Academy camp, but she told me a while ago, she goes, we call spouses the untrainers. That's why my husband's not allowed in the center. Okay, so in addition to change, keep them used to change, get them off of routines, the one I wrote in this morning was balance. It's all about balance, okay? Because this kind of leads into another one that's a common one. And I think we actually might be able to, we got 15, 20 minutes, we better hurry. I've got 4 more I want to get through. It's all about keeping the balance. One thing we don't have here is a one-person animal, okay? That's on purpose. When Rocky came in, he liked my husband, didn't like me. What does that look like? What does like look like? Like looks like can sit on the lap and perch calmly. What not looks like is when I walked in the room. He would run across the floor, bite my feet if he could make contact. He would charge every time I walked in the room. And every time I left the room, I reinforced the charge. But I wasn't sticking around. So with balance, okay, when we see a person attached, or a person, that too, when we see an animal attached to one person, red flags are going up or starting to get attached to one person. We've had it here. We're constantly modifying behaviors here because behavior's constantly happening. Say when one person, not when everybody walks out of the room, when one person walks out of the room, I'll give you 2 different examples. When one particular person walks out of the room, a bird starts screaming. I trained that on cue. One person walks out of the room, a bird starts screaming. That's a serious problem. That's when it's one person. Okay? Well, that's usually more intense. Rocky, serious separation anxiety, one of the toughest separation anxiety cases I've ever had, which I think separation anxiety is off the charts in the companion parrot community. When one person walks out of the room, that tells me this behavior has been trained. Okay? Another example. The dogs start barking. Let's say Levi starts barking. When not just one particular person walks out of the room, but when a person walks out of the room. okay? We need to identify the reinforcer the best we can, start putting a behavior modification plan in place for it. It's all about balance. This is why you hear me say studies show if you're actually using positive reinforcements, the animal's preferred form of enrichment. I'm very careful when I'm training because that training provides choice, control, complexity. It empowers the animal. If I'm the only one doing the training, that means I'm the only one delivering positive reinforcement. If I'm the only one delivering positive reinforcement that is paired with me, I will start to see the animal say it goes from lunging, biting me, grabbing me, to starting to anticipate me walking close to it. And then if I see that animal starting, like behavior issues starting to develop due to overbonding is starting to happen. This is why I will train a behavior. Once the behavior is clearly understood, boom, I bring another trainer in on that behavior. So, and then we'll go back and forth, okay? And I make sure I stay part of that equation, or the scales are going to tip and the animal's going to start to like that trainer, that person more. So then once that person can train that behavior, then I bring in a third one. You get on it. That's how we keep balance here. But at the same time, new behaviors being trained, I'm training it if nobody knows the animal very well, or I don't care if you train this animal a new behavior, but I'm not going to jump in on it until you've trained it well. Because even the movement of our hands, like I can tell some cues here are being confused with some certain animals. Like I'll give certain cues and the animal gives me another behavior. I'm like, whoa, why is the animal doing that other behavior? Because that's not what I just cued it to do. So then I start looking and see and watching how other people are cueing the behaviors. This is why I tell people with Snow, our deaf and blind dog, if you don't know her, don't touch her. If you do touch her, rub her belly. Because if you touch her these other places, these are cues that I use to give her to training. And if you touch her, say you touch her here, this is my bridge to her. That means good because she can't hear. That means this because she can't see. I'm marking that behavior. If you do that, she may sit there and wait. And if you do not deliver a positive reinforcer, which comes in the form of hugs, not hugs, scratches, play, tug, food, she's going to start barking and spinning. And what I don't want to see is her barking and spinning. It's usually a sign of, not all the time, but a sign of frustration or the opportunity she can't get to something. She can't get it. Lack of communication. Okay. Emma says, great question. Great question. Emma says, what if you're the only one who interacts with them? Emma, and maybe we talk about this in the projects and memberships, get creative, okay? Do you never have visitors? Do you have family come over? Do you have anybody come over for tea, for dinner, to meet to go for a walk? Have them come in and introduce them to the animal. Because, Emma, you're going to go away sometime and you're going to need a sitter. So if you don't keep that balance in your house, you're going to have a stressful situation between you or with your dog, with your bird, when it comes time that you need to go away, or when it needs to go to boarding. So Lauren says, with my ring neck, I make sure everybody gets daily holding and interaction time. Yeah, and with different people. Okay, Quentin says, this is one thing I'd like to talk about in Long Island with you if possible. My eclectic screams when everybody leaves. Absolutely, Quentin, let's talk about it. Hey, Sheila, good to see you in here. Okay, so it's all about balance, you guys. My eyes are always open. My ears are always listening. It's not hard to do. What is hard to do is tell people, not tell them, because that's easy for me to tell them to do something, to get them to pay attention. Like I am paying attention that this grinding on the beak behind my head, grinding on the cage. Okay? I'm listening to Rocky whistle. I know both dogs are at my feet sleeping, or at least have their eyes closed. Okay? I'm paying attention to Coco doing his abnormal repetitive behavior behind me. I'm listening to everything that's going on in the environment. This morning when I was listening to the last episode of Coffee with the Critters, I sat there and I was listening because I paused a lot in between talking. I was like, that could really drive some of the viewers. It could cause you to drop off and not watch the live stream. Then maybe this live stream's not for you. Because I was watching what I was doing. I was like, why am I pausing so much? And so I'm watching what I'm doing. And I was reading my own behavior, watching, and I was like, because I'm listening, I'm like, something's happening back here. That noise. I don't want to hear that noise. That means lack of complexity in that cage. Right, Rock? Nice job. So he's calmly perching. It's never a reinforcer. I noticed that screen. Okay. So paying attention. Okay, we're talking about balance. I have a couple more, and we're probably not going to make it through it all, but that's okay. People, this is important, so I'm going to pick this one. People unknowingly reinforce separation anxiety. Always holding the animal, always walking around with the animal, always coddling the animal. If that animal likes that, you're probably well on your way creating separation anxiety. And we have I think 2 or 3 podcasts in the membership levels on separation anxiety alone, in depth detail. Because one of the hardest things to work with separation anxiety is when that animal is attached to one person and one person only. Because what that means is it can bring on behaviors labeled as aggressive with anybody else in the environment that has to take care of that animal. That's not fair to those other people. That's not fair to that animal. If this is an animal in a home, this animal is likely to lose its home because of the behavior issues that we reinforced. I've seen this in zoos. When a certain zookeeper leaves and that animal is extremely attached to that one zookeeper. And maybe I'm just too extreme. I mean, because when these lives are huge responsibilities, when we decide to take a certain position working with this animal, when we decide to take a position working with this animal, you have positions in shelters where animals are getting attached to one person. That's not fair to that animal because that person may leave, may get a different job, and then it's not doing the animals any favors. Yep. Part 3, Emma says common mistakes. Yeah, Amy says anxiety behavior is a big problem with dogs. Yeah, and I'll have to review that more after this live stream is over. Another one that is huge is, may have heard me say this before, one label that if I hear inside, I'm sitting there going, I'm twitching my head, the terrible twos. There's nothing terrible about that age of learning other than it's an inconvenient to the person. Okay. The terrible, I can tell somebody's here. The terrible twos by watching Rocky. Those are years of young learning. If you have the luxury of training something when it's young, don't waste that time. That is time that animal's learning, and if you keep it reinforced, positively reinforced, it can remain very strong throughout its life, especially the first ones it's learned. Okay, so terrible twos, there's nothing terrible about them. What's terrible is seeing that time wasted not training that animal for a successful future. Couple things I want to end on. I think we're pretty much covering all of it. I'm just not as in-depth as I wanted to. Seek help, okay? Something I commonly see, and this is another one that'll get me to twitch, is I just let the behavior issue go because I thought it'd work itself out. What that's called is it's now developing a history of reinforcement. They thought it would solve itself. I'm not even sure what solve itself means. If I'm not sure what behavior, when I see a behavior, if I'm not sure, I have a red flag going up. Like, is this a potential behavior issue? Because the more it's practiced, the undesired is practiced, the stronger it gets. Now you have to counter condition, which means retraining. And the downside of that, of not training when it first started, was take it, Milo. Milo's mopping the other room. Is once you retrain, and if the positive reinforcement is not delivered for the replacement behavior, what in the world is going on in there? I just see a mop moving around, and there's a pig in that room. If the positive reinforcer isn't delivered for the alternate behavior that we counter condition, it is very likely to go back to the undesired behavior that it learned brings reinforcement. Okay, and there, once again, it's us not paying attention. Seek behavior help and reach out as soon as you think you may have an issue. And be careful who you reach out to. Do your research on the trainers, okay? If you are not sure, ask somebody. If you're not sure that person knows what they're talking about, do your research. Okay, I would Google what is an aversive. I would Google 4 main side effects of using aversives to control behavior. Morning, guys. And I would Google using applied behavior analysis, positive reinforcement, how to identify if you're actually using somebody that uses positive reinforcement. Okay, do your research. Yes. All right. All right. I'm going to probably follow up with your questions and comments because there's a lot happening after we end this. So give me a couple of minutes because I have to medicate Coco, voluntary, and then head inside. So if you guys like what you have seen during this Coffee with the Critters, this is just a taste, just a portion of what we do. We have our online learning membership, annual memberships, and our online learning projects, which are species specific. A couple of things I want to talk about, and for some reason, this photo continues to not show up on my live stream, and I'm not sure. It must be the type of photo it is. But let me take this down real quick because in, I don't know, is it 2 weeks? June 8th and 9th, I will be presenting in Long Island with several different people at the C4AW Collaboration for Avian Wellness. This is focused on birds, a great powerhouse of people coming together. If you can attend that, I highly suggest. You can find more on their website. Something else, Deb Jones, Dr. Deb Jones and I will be giving our 2-day all-species animal training and behavior workshop in the second weekend in October. Seats are selling, and we do expect them to sell out. You can find out more information on our website with that as well. And then, I guess, then nothing. That's it. All right. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode of Coffee with the Critters. Pay attention to our schedule, our events here on the Facebook page. You'll see what's coming up. All right. If you have any questions, need to get in touch with me, you can reach me at theanimalbehaviorcenter.com. All right. Take care, guys. Thanks. Have a great weekend. Did I forget anything? I hope not.